And Frank Tietie is in the studio with me to look at the issue on the former Senate leader requiring or asking President Bola Tinubu to withdraw the ambassadorial nominee list currently before the Senate. Hello, great to see you on the news.
My pleasure.
Well, I mean, it moved from the characters or the persons on the list to federal character. And this call is coming from Senator Ndume, who says it's lopsided and, of course, is not in tandem with the Nigerian Constitution as it refers to federal character. What do you make of his call? Is it justifiable?
No. It's not actually justifiable, both in law and politically speaking. First, you know, the issue of federal character falls under Chapter 2 of the Constitution, and all those fundamental objective and directive principles of state policy are non-justiciable provisions of the Constitution. They are mere directives to the President and all persons in government to actually follow. I'm happy that Senator Ndume actually is making the call, because all those earlier calls that were made with regards to lopsided appointment under President Buhari, we didn't hear such voices coming to condemn them. And then it's as if President Tinubu has come to, extend that, but, the interesting thing is that federal character is not a mandatory provision of the Constitution. The President may follow it, he may not follow it. But I think, Senator Ndume is coming too fast. He's coming prematurely, because he ought to do his job as a senator, in the sense that the Senate has a constitutional responsibility to confirm ambassadorial nominees. But the presumption of Senator Ndume's call is as if whatever the President has put in that list, whoever's the name that is on that list must actually be cleared by the Senate. No, the Senate should first of all do its job and go a step further to reject some of those names. And after that rejection, then Senator Ndume can now call on the President to please observe the federal character principle in replacing those names. But when he makes that call back to the President, because it's sloppy to think that the President who has submitted such names should now withdraw that. I mean, that doesn't sound well. What I think we should do is to, Senator Ndume should do, is to read in between the lines, and then also read between the lines and see that there's something going on. It seems that, and let the Senate at least try to save the President. If you look at the list, it seems as if the President is under one sort of bond or one sort of compulsion to put up those names. And that the President, being known as a man who keeps his political promises, may have just done his part, and then he cannot be said to have reneged on his promises, and then so it's expected that the Senate should now free him from such kind of bondage, in the sense that by doing their job of proper screening before confirmation, rather than to ask the President to go back on his words. So as the good cop, bad cop, yes. The President being the good cop, the Senate being the bad cop. Oh, no. The President has done his part. Constitutionally speaking, the President has the powers. To appoint ambassadors, he may, according to the constitutional provision of Section 171, he may. That's why for over 2 years he did not appoint ambassador, and he did not offend the law. He didn't offend anything. Now, if he chooses to exercise his prerogative to appoint ambassadors based on certain political understandings, because it's so clear that there was, if you look at the list, there was sort of a compulsive, pressure on the President to name those persons. Those persons do not necessarily reflect, the expectations many Nigerians have of a President Tinubu's administration. Nevertheless, he has exercised those powers. The Senate should go a step further to exercise its responsibility under the, checks and balances principle of the separation of powers in our democracy, by trying to save the President.
In other words, the Senate should cut down the list and remove those individuals you referred to, even though you've not mentioned their names.
Definitely, yes. Certainly, I won't mention names. But you see, we've got some fantastic people in that list. There's no doubt. A dear friend of mine, I must say, Senator Tietie is there, and nobody can contest him in terms of character and competence. However, Nigerians, they own this country, and they've been quite vociferous in condemning some names there. Very many names. And why should it be that the President will use the ambassador's position to settle political scores, you know, or rather settle political benefactors. No. It shouldn't be. So many Nigerians are actually angry. But then, Nigerians are looking forward with a lot of excitement, bated breath, expecting that for once, let's see a Senate that will stand up to the president or that will do some independent job only for Senator
Something
Ndume.
Nigerians are not...
Senator Ndume to now say, no, president should take back the list. No, Senator Ndume should go to the floor of the Senate and actually do his job.
Interesting. I mean, some will also say perhaps Senator Ndume should rally round his colleagues, you know, and move for that and do the job, as you've described, yes, on the floor of the Senate, rather than asking the president to do it. But let's stay with the issue of representation across board, even though you say, you know, it's at the president's prerogative, yes, to appoint ambassadors. When I look at the list, the entire list, Senator Ndume mentioned Gombe. He also said the nominee from Yobe is dead. But FCT is missing on that list. The Federal Capital Territory is missing on the list. I mean, do you think the president should have considered across the board?
You see, if when the Constitution donates powers and expects some measure of mandatory, you know, action, it spells it out in terms of, for example, appointment of ministers, and it dictates it that the president shall appoint ministers, one from each of the states of the federation. It's clear. But with regards to ambassadors, no, the president can defy federal character principle in the appointment of ambassadors, because in the screening process of the ambassadors, competence matters a lot. Many people think it's just about, you know, being appointed. It's a political appointment. You have to understand that, you know, the persons have to show competence, capacity in the you know, how much they comprehend Nigeria's policy.
Well, you have 35 states represented here, except for Gombe and the FCT.
Well, whatever reason it is, I'm not going to do an apology on the part of the president. Mm-hmm. But however, when talking about the legal, you know, compulsion for the president to appoint a certain person from a certain state, it's not there. It would have been appropriate, and that's the reason why, expectedly, if the Senate does its job, we should see some 7 to 10 persons being dropped off that list. And at that point, Senator Ndume can appropriately call on the president to please respect the federal character principle.
Okay. I mean, information confirmed is that at the moment we have 68 nominees before the Nigerian Senate. Only 3 of them, the initial 3, have scaled, you know, their screening process. And Nigeria has 109 missions abroad. So there's still room for perhaps more ambassadors to come up.
Expectedly, considering that the president did not appoint ambassadors for the past 2.5 years. I think first I tried to fathom a reason why he didn't, and I thought he was trying to save cost until the Trump saga came up, and then, you know, realizing that it was very important. I've been at the UN mission, Nigerian mission at the United Nations in Geneva, and I saw how much the ambassador then was able to stave off a crisis. You know, so realizing that not having ambassadors would spell more misunderstanding of our foreign policy. Now he has chosen to do that. I doubt if the president would appoint more ambassadors just because because our missions require them. What I do know about our foreign affairs ministry is that it has competent officials who can actually run some of all these small missions that actually need to be closed down and combined. If some European countries are having their missions, you know, in Nigeria, then taking care of the entire West Africa, I wonder why we are having so many of such missions. Okay. I am envisaging that many of them will be combined.
Great. Let's move to the matter on grassroots representation and local government autonomy. This time around, it's coming from the president of the Nigerian Senate, Godswill Akpabio, who's calling for the empowerment of local government.
I don't really, you see, with that local government autonomy decision
we seem to beat this drum all the time, flog the issue, but nothing changes.
Because of the nature of the governors that we have, the kind of governors that we have that want to stifle the local government, government council governance in Nigeria. They are not willing to let go of the finances of local governments that easily. It's very difficult for them, I see. But again, the local government chairmen do wish to still be tied to the apron strings of the governors, because if they actually allow local government autonomy and funds are paid directly to them, they wonder if they can actually pay the huge wage bill that they have, that the state is currently taking care of in terms of the manpower and employment that they have. So they wish, speaking to one local government chairman, he said, look, he doubts that if those monies are paid directly to these councils, that these councils may even be able to survive, because they will have human resources problem. They'll have to lay off a number of staff and then be unable to meet their services. So they really want to still be tied to the apron strings of the state government. I
mean, is it time to take a second look at the kind of governance structure we run in Nigeria?
Well, I think it's well-intentioned. Federalism, unfortunately, we're not decentralizing the proper things that we should. So, whereas local government should, in proper sense, because of the fact that it provides services that are spelled out clearly in the Constitution, the services that determine the quality of life that people should have, it is expected that the revenue allocation formula should even give them more, as much as that of the state, if not more than state government. Unfortunately, it's not so. So they are being stifled, and then the politics of a governor, hamstringing local government councils in terms of funds is a big problem. However, considering the fact that many of those employments in the local council have been made by previous governments, and these have been inherited by this council chairman. To think that you want to now ask them to be directly responsible for the funds that they get directly from the federal government, they may not be able to provide such services like taking care of cemeteries, abattoirs, and all of the others. And that's the reason why they will continue to want to remain attached to the state government.
We had a judgment just yesterday from the Supreme Court on Osun State, which involves local government finances in the state. I mean, I don't know if you followed that story yesterday.
Yes, I followed
where the justices said, 6 out of the 7 of them, majority said, the state had no capacity to come before the courts, and that the local government should have done so. But I think that buttresses your point that we have local governments that still want to be tied to the aprons of the state, because why are they not speaking?
Yeah, but because they need to be politically correct, and we have situations where the governors actually influenced the elections of many of the councillors and council chairmen, and they are actually just kowtowing and doing the bidding of the governors.
But don't also forget, there's a subsisting judgment. The Tinubu administration tested the Constitution on local government autonomy. Even though it exists in the Constitution, the Attorney General of the Federation took it a step further under this administration to go to the court, and there's a judgment. Which
was quite laudable, and the expectation is that it ought to have been followed. But you see, it's quite surprising that we now started thinking about setting up committees on the implementation of the Supreme Court judgments. And in the forefront of that opposition to the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment are council chairmen themselves, who are saying no, that they don't want that sort of financial autonomy where monies will be paid directly to them, and they are unable to determine what the money should be used for in terms of the number of employees that they have. Because if you look at the Ministry of Local Government in a state, for example, that is responsible for the employment of local government council staff, and then you now give a large number of staff to local government council chairman, and then you pay them a certain amount of money they are not able to use to meet those services, becomes a big problem for them.
Perhaps it's time for Nigerians to also start paying attention to who is elected as local government chairman.
Yes, of course, very, very important. Unfortunately, even though they say politics is local, it appears that the governors actually determine the local politics in our states.
Unfortunate. Frank Tietie, thank you so much for your thought on these matters. We do appreciate your time, as always, on the news.
My pleasure.
Frank Tietie is a legal practitioner.